In some U.S. cities, rent has dropped so fast landlords are basically leaving voicemail like, hey, we can negotiate. Please negotiate. The housing crisis isn't universal. In a few places, it's doing a full reverse Uno. Apartments sitting empty, rents tanking, and for rent, signs multiplying like they're running a pyramid scheme. But cheap doesn't always mean good. When rent collapses this hard, something else is usually leaking: the economy, the population, or the actual buildings. Today, we're counting down the 10 U.S. cities where rent is falling so aggressively it's starting to feel personal. Think you know America's best bargains? Okay, let's see how many of these places you'd actually survive living in. Like this video and subscribe, especially if you've ever opened Zillow at 2 a.m. just to feel hope again. All right, let's get into the countdown. Number 10, Toledo, Ohio. Toledo, Ohio, the city where rent is falling faster than the Browns' playoff hopes. And listen, when Toledo becomes one of the cheapest places in America, landlords start sweating like they're in a job interview they did not prepare for. Here's the situation. Toledo's median rent dropped to around $880 for a one-bedroom in 2026, down roughly 6 to 8% year over year, depending on the neighborhood. Meanwhile, the national average rent is hovering around $1,400 plus. So you can practically get 2 apartments in Toledo for the price of one in a normal city. Or rent one and use the other strictly for emotional breakdowns. Options. Why so cheap? Well, Toledo has been dealing with a population decline for years. The city peaked at around 383,000 people in the 1970s, but today it's sitting closer to 270,000. That's over 110,000 people gone. Enough to make landlords stare out of empty windows like abandoned puppies. And then the economy. Manufacturing took big hits, major employers downsized, and job growth has been slower than a DMV line at lunch break. Toledo's unemployment rate has hovered above the national average, which means fewer people moving in and more apartments begging for tenants like, please take me. I come with free parking. But here's the twist. Toledo isn't all doom and gloom. The cost of living is 22% below the national average. Groceries are cheaper. Utilities are cheaper. Even the crime rate, which has been high historically, has actually been trending downward in some areas. Rent is dropping because the housing supply is outpacing demand, not because the city is collapsing. Still, for 2026, Toledo is officially one of the cheapest big cities in America. Affordable? Absolutely. Suspiciously affordable? Also yes. Move here and you might save money, but you better enjoy quiet streets, older infrastructure, and landlords would literally bake you cookies to sign a 12-month lease. Number 9, Henderson, Nevada. Henderson, Nevada, the city where rent is dropping even though the temperature outside is still hot enough to deep fry a waffle on your car hood. But don't let the fancy golf courses fool you. Landlords here are sweating harder than gamblers who bet their rent money on a sure win. Here's the twist. Henderson used to be one of the fastest growing cities in the U.S., but in the last couple of years, something flipped. The median rent dipped to around $1,525 for a one-bedroom, down roughly 5 to 7% from last year, which is shocking because this is Las Vegas's clean, well-behaved cousin. Henderson wasn't supposed to get cheaper. Yet here we are. Why? 2 words: supply overload. During the Vegas housing boom, developers built apartments like they were printing NFTs, fast and unnecessary. Henderson added thousands of new units, expecting a non-stop flood of Californians running away from taxes and kombucha. But guess what? That wave slowed down. People quit moving as fast, and now buildings are sitting there like, hello? Anybody? We have a pool. Meanwhile, the population growth rate dropped sharply, hovering barely above 0.5%, compared to the 3 to 4% jumps Henderson used to flex. When fewer people move in and thousands of new apartments show up ready to party, rents start falling like a poorly stacked Jenga tower. Add in the fact that Nevada's cost of living rose 13 to 15% post-2023, especially groceries and utilities, and suddenly folks realized, maybe the desert isn't that cheap anymore. So instead of moving in, People are moving out or not coming at all. Crime is still lower than Vegas, but rising just enough that some neighborhoods are giving suburban but keep your car locked energy. Employers are hiring slower, remote workers are leaving, and landlords are offering deals like 1 month free, 2 hugs, and a $50 Amazon card just to fill units. Henderson is still nice, quiet, safe-ish, clean, but the slowdown is real. Rent is dropping because demand cooled, not because the city is failing. But landlords? Oh, they're definitely panicking. Number 8, Buffalo, New York. Buffalo, New York, the city where rent is falling faster than the temperature in January. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to live inside a freezer with taxes, Buffalo is your answer. And apparently, people are deciding they'd rather not. Let's talk rent first. The average rent in Buffalo dropped to around $1,145, down about 6% year over year, which is basically the housing market waving a white flag. Landlords aren't just lowering prices. They're offering deals like half off your first month and we'll shovel your driveway ourselves, because they know winter is Buffalo's biggest eviction threat. Why the drop? 1. Population decline, a classic Buffalo tradition. Buffalo has lost over 5% of its population in the past decade, and the trend isn't slowing. In 2024 alone, the city saw an additional 0.7% decline, which sounds small until you realize that's hundreds of people looking around and saying, nope, too cold, before packing up. 2. The economy is trying its best. Unemployment here sits around 5.3%, higher than the national average. The job market is improving, but slowly, like dial-up internet in 2001 slow. A lot of young people leave for better jobs, better weather, or simply because they want to feel their fingers in February. 3. Housing oversupply. Buffalo built more apartments expecting a rebound that never rebounded. Now you've got buildings staring out the window like lonely Labradors waiting for tenants who don't arrive. Vacancy rates hit 7.9%, the highest the city has seen in years. 4. Weather, Buffalo's ultimate villain. Buffalo gets a stunning 95 inches of snow per year. That's not winter. That's a personality trait. And while rent is cheap, heating bills can make grown adults cry. So why is rent collapsing? Simple. Too much supply, not enough people, and a climate that tries to kill you every November. Buffalo has amazing food, passionate sports fans, and nice people. But landlords? They're in full panic mode, dropping prices like they're trying to clear out inventory before a blizzard buries the entire building. Number 7, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Santa Fe, the city where rent is collapsing, but the art galleries are still priced like Picasso personally signed every painting with his tears. You'd think a beautiful desert city with adobe homes and rich history would be booming. But nope. Santa Fe's rental market is dropping harder than a tourist jaw when they see the cost of a simple taco. Let's talk numbers. The average rent in Santa Fe dipped to around $1,690, down about 4% year over year, a big shift for a place that used to brag about Santa Fe luxury pricing. Vacancy rates? They've climbed to 7.1%, the highest in a decade. So why are people quietly sneaking out of Santa Fe like it's a bad date? 1. The cost of living is ridiculous. Santa Fe is 25% more expensive than the U.S. average, and housing is over 35% higher. Yet the median household income sits at around $63,000, which is not Santa Fe Art District money. That's please don't increase my rent this year money. 2. Jobs. Where? The unemployment rate hovers around 4.3%. Which sounds normal until you realize the job market is 70% tourism and service work. Meaning if tourists stop coming, half the workforce suddenly becomes available for new opportunities. 3. Population stagnation. Santa Fe's population is basically flat, up less than 1% in 5 years. Translation: no new people moving in, but plenty moving out, especially younger adults who can't afford the rent or the $19 avocado toast. 4. Climate reality. Santa Fe is beautiful if you like living in a dehydrated oven. Water shortages, wildfires, and long droughts have made some residents rethink their life choices. So yes, rent is falling. Not because it's cheap to live in Santa Fe, but because people love the culture, but their bank accounts do not. Number 6, Boise, Idaho. Boise, once America's fastest growing city. Now America's landlords holding desperate discount signs. The rent collapse in Boise is shocking because just a few years ago you needed an organ donor to afford a one-bedroom. Now, the average rent dropped to about $1,595, down over 7% in the last year. Vacancy rates? A spicy 8.4%, the highest Boise has seen since the early 2010s. So what happened to Idaho's golden child? 1. The pandemic boom exploded, then imploded. People fled California and Washington like the apocalypse was coming, pushed Boise's population up 18% in 10 years, and then realized, wait, we moved to Idaho? For this. A huge portion moved back out. Net migration dropped by over 60%. 2. Overbuilding like crazy. Developers built apartments, assuming the boom would never end. Big mistake. Now Boise has thousands of new units opening with nobody to fill them. Cue landlords offering $500 off, 2 months free, and probably will name the building after you. 3. Income versus cost of living. Median income is about $75,000, but housing prices skyrocketed so far during the boom that locals simply couldn't keep up. The cost of living rose 15% above the national average, pricing out long-term residents who then left. 4. Job market slowing down. Tech jobs that once promised a Boise renaissance, many pulled back. Unemployment nudged up to 4.1%, and job growth slowed dramatically. Add all this together, and Boise transformed from dream move to, maybe not. Rent is cheap now because the city accidentally created more apartments than people, like they thought half of Los Angeles was moving in permanently. Wait. You've made it this far and you're still not subscribed? That's crazy. You've been laughing, nodding, judging, maybe even Googling cheap apartments far from these towns, and you still haven't hit the button? Come on now. That's like eating at a restaurant, loving the food, and then sneaking out before tipping the waiter. Don't do me like that. Hit that subscribe button. I'll even wait 5 seconds. Go on. I'm serious. I'll stare awkwardly at the camera till you do. Alright, done? Good. Now let's move on before Colorado itself files a complaint about this video. Number 5. Champaign, Illinois. Champaign, Illinois. The only city where rent drops the moment students leave, like someone unplugged the entire economy for summer break. This is a classic college town roller coaster. Booming when school's in session, eerily quiet when everyone goes home to do laundry and avoid adult responsibilities. Right now, average rent sits around $1,120, down roughly 6% year over year, and vacancy rates are climbing toward 9%. For a city powered by 60,000 University of Illinois students, that's basically a flashing neon sign that says, please, somebody, anybody move in. Part of the struggle is timing. When students evacuate for breaks, landlords panic like they're watching their crypto portfolio crash. Suddenly, the same apartment that cost a kidney in September is going for first month free in May. Then there's income. Median household income hovers around $55,000, which isn't terrible, but it's not keeping up with rising utilities, groceries, and Chicagoland level taxes that Illinois loves charging no matter where you live. Add in a crime rate that's about 40% higher than the national average, and you start to understand why renters are disappearing like snacks at a college party. So yes, the rent is cheap, tempting even. But remember, you're not getting a sweet deal because the landlords love you. You're getting a sweet deal because half the city left for break and forgot to come back. Number 4, Laredo, Texas. Laredo, the Texas border city where rent is dropping fast enough to make landlords sweat harder than the weather. And considering Laredo hits 100 degrees like it's a hobby, that's impressive. The average rent is now around $1,040, down close to 7% year over year, with vacancy rates climbing past 10%, one of the highest in Texas. For a state that normally has people lining up to move in, Laredo is not getting that memo. One big reason? Wages. The median household income is only about $53,000, one of the lowest in the state. Combine that with a cost of living that keeps creeping upward, and a lot of residents are choosing cheaper Texas cities or crossing into San Antonio, where the job market actually breathes. Then there's crime. Laredo's violent crime rate sits 20 to 25% above the national average. Property crime? Even higher. Your car isn't getting stolen daily, but it's definitely on the wait list. And infrastructure. Let's just say some roads look like they've been personally attacked by the sun. So yes, rent is cheap. Very cheap. But cheap in the why is nobody taking this free puppy way? There's always a reason. Number 3, Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham, Alabama's industrial heart. But lately, it's beating a little too slowly. Rent here has plummeted to the point where a 2-bedroom apartment will cost you less than your monthly coffee habit in New York City. The median rent sits around $850 per month, which sounds amazing until you realize the crime rate in some neighborhoods is about twice the national average. It's a city of contrasts. Stunning historic architecture on one street and abandoned warehouses with graffiti art on the next. The economy? Slowly recovering, but job opportunities are mostly in healthcare, education, and retail, which isn't necessarily bad unless you're hoping for a tech startup hub vibe. Funny enough, people keep moving out despite cheap rent. Why? Because cheap rent comes with character, potholes that could double as hot tubs, neighbors who might borrow your lawnmower and never return it, and a local deer population that's aggressive enough to intimidate your morning jog. Still, if you're willing to embrace the quirks, Birmingham offers affordability that's practically unheard of in today's housing market. Just maybe keep a helmet handy for both potholes and deer. Number 2, Fresno, California. Fresno, the city where you can rent a 3-bedroom house for less than $1,200 per month, but be prepared for temperatures that make your car feel like a pizza oven. The median rent here is $1,150, down 5% year over year, which has landlords sweating like it's 110 degrees Fahrenheit outside. The city has charm in its agricultural roots, but it also has crime stats that flirt with the national average, meaning you should probably check your locks at night. Fresno is big, sprawling, and traffic can feel endless, even though you're probably only going 5 miles across town. Here's the funny part. People are leaving faster than a fire drill in July. Job growth is slow, schools are hit or miss, and while cheap rent sounds enticing, residents quickly discover the hidden costs, sweltering heat, dust storms, and that neighbor who thinks 3 a.m. is the perfect time to practice their bagpipe skills. Yet, for bargain hunters and remote workers, Fresno is almost too good to ignore. Rent is cheap, groceries are affordable, and there's plenty of space. You just might need a fan, sunscreen, and a strong sense of humor to survive. Number 1, Stamford, Connecticut. Stamford, Connecticut's shining star. If your star is a sky-high rent sign and a passive-aggressive HOA notice waiting to greet you at the mailbox. Rent here is so expensive, it makes New York City look like a bargain basement. The median 1-bedroom goes for about $2,200 per month, which is a lot unless you're secretly running a small tech empire out of your closet. But here's the twist. Even with rents this high, people are leaving. Why? Because Stamford has perfected the art of charging you for everything. Parking, utilities, a view of the Hudson that's actually partially blocked by your neighbor's balcony. And let's not forget the local traffic, which makes LA freeways look like scenic countryside. The crime rate is relatively low, schools are solid, and the city is picturesque, but comes with that keep up or get eaten vibe. Everyone's on a power walk, in a suit, checking their phone, and judging your grocery choices. Funny enough, even with all this, Stamford will make you laugh if you let it. You'll spend half your paycheck on rent, the other half on coffee to cope, and still marvel at the fact that someone actually considered this affordable living. So yeah, it's fancy, it's pricey, and it's absurd, but somehow, people keep calling it home. And the cherry on top? Stamford has perfected the art of pretending everything is fine. Residents will talk about their quaint local cafes and charming tree-lined streets, while secretly crying over property taxes and skyrocketing insurance bills. It's the ultimate flex city. Look rich, feel broke, and somehow survive. Only in Stamford can you experience prestige, panic, and public transport delays all in the same afternoon. Hold up. You laughed at least twice, didn't you? Don't lie. If you did, you officially owe the Urban Lens a subscribe. It's the law now. Go ahead, click that icon on your screen right now before I call out your hometown next week. Don't test me. I will find it. And if you already subscribed, you're safe. You're family now. I'm the Urban Lens. Thanks for watching. And remember, if your town didn't make this list, just wait. It probably will.